What is zero-tolerance policy? What is sexual harassment? Origins of the idea, opponents, and characteristics. A zero-tolerance policy is one which imposes a punishment for every infraction of a stated rule. Zero-tolerance policies forbid people in positions of authority from exercising discretion or changing punishments to fit the circumstances subjectively. They are required to impose a predetermined punishment, regardless of individual culpability, extenuating circumstances, or history. This predetermined punishment, whether mild or severe, is always meted out. Zero-tolerance policies are studied in criminology and are common in formal and informal policing systems around the world. The policies also appear in informal situations where there may be sexual harassment or internet misuse in educational and workplace environments. In 2014, the mass incarceration in the United States based upon minor offenses has resulted in an outcry on the use of zero tolerance in schools and communities. Little evidence supports the claimed effectiveness of zero-tolerance policies. One underlying problem is that there are a great many reasons why people hesitate to intervene or to report behavior they find to be unacceptable or unlawful. Zero-tolerance policies address, at best, only a few of these reasons. What is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment is a type of harassment involving the use of explicit or implicit sexual overtones, including the unwelcome or inappropriate promise of rewards in exchange for sexual favors. Sexual harassment includes a range of actions, from verbal transgressions to sexual abuse or assault. Harassment can occur in many different social settings, such as the workplace, the home, school, churches, etc. Harassers or victims may be of any gender. In most modern legal contexts, sexual harassment is illegal. Laws surrounding sexual harassment generally do not prohibit simple teasing, offhand comments, or minor isolated incidents. That is due to the fact that they do not impose a general civility code. In the workplace, harassment may be considered illegal when it is frequent or severe, thereby creating a hostile or offensive work environment, or when it results in an adverse employment decision. The legal and social understanding of sexual harassment, however, varies by culture. Sexual harassment by an employer is a form of illegal employment discrimination. For many businesses or organizations, preventing sexual harassment and defending employees from sexual harassment charges have become key goals of legal decision-making. The United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission defines workplace sexual harassment as unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature. Origins of the idea. The idea behind zero-tolerance policies can be traced back to the Safe and Clean Neighborhoods Act, which was approved in New Jersey in 1973 and had the same underlying assumptions. The ideas behind the 1973 New Jersey policy were later popularized in 1982, when a U.S. cultural magazine, The Atlantic Monthly, published an article by James Q. Wilson and George L. Kelling about the broken windows theory of crime. Their name for the idea comes from the following example. Consider a building with a few broken windows. If the windows are not repaired, the tendency is for vandals to break a few more windows. Eventually, they may even break into the building, and if it's unoccupied, perhaps become squatters or light fires inside. Or consider a sidewalk. Some litter accumulates. Soon, more litter accumulates. Eventually, people even start leaving bags of trash from takeout restaurants. According to scholars, zero tolerance is the concept of giving carte blanche to the police for the inflexible repression of minor offenses, homeless people, and the disorders associated with them. A well-known criticism to this approach is that it redefines social problems in terms of security, it considers the poor as criminals, and it reduces crimes to only street crimes, those committed by lower social classes, and excludes white-collar crimes. Sheldon Wine has set out a list of 6 characteristics of a zero-tolerance policy. Full enforcement. All those for whom there is adequate evidence that they have violated the rule are to be identified. Lack of prosecutorial discretion. For every plausibly accused person, it is determined whether the person has in fact violated the policy. Strict constructivist interpretation. No room for narrow interpretation of the rule. Strict liability. No excuses or justifications. Mandatory punishment. Not under a mandatory minimum penalty. Harsh punishment. Mandatory minimum penalty is considered relatively harsh given the nature of the crime. Opponents. Opponents of zero tolerance believe that such a policy neglects investigation on a case-by-case basis and may lead to unreasonably harsh penalties for crimes that may not warrant such penalties in reality. #Zero tolerance. Sexual harassment. Characteristics. What is zero tolerance policy? What is sexual harassment? Origins of the idea, opponents, and characteristics.